A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Gaurav Sharma and with me is Aditi Zumba, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. External Affairs Minister of India S. Jaishankar to meet foreign ministers of Quad at Melbourne on Friday. Nepal's ruling coalition votes against the $500 million Millennium Challenge Corporation. Over 60% voting recorded in the first phase of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. National Medical Commission cautions students over pursuing medical degrees from Chinese universities. India removes distinction between at-risk and other countries in revised guidelines for incoming international travelers. Vaccine inequity is the biggest moral failure of our times, says UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Mughal Gardens at Rashtrapati Bhavan to be open for the public from Saturday. And in cricket, the final ODI between India and West Indies to be played on Friday at Ahmedabad. With the new Omicron variant of coronavirus causing concern, we appeal to our listeners to be vigilant, get fully vaccinated, and help others, including children between 15 and 18 years, to get vaccinated. Please continue to follow these 3 simple steps to stay safe. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact the national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now, the news in detail. External Affairs Minister of India S. Jaishankar will participate in the 4th Quad Foreign Ministers meeting on Friday in Melbourne in Australia, along with the Foreign Ministers of Australia, Japan and the United States. It will be an opportunity for the ministers to follow up on their virtual meeting held in February last year and exchange views on regional strategic issues, given their shared vision of a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific region. The ministers will review the ongoing Quad cooperation and build on the positive and constructive agenda announced by the leaders at the 2 summits last year to address contemporary challenges such as the COVID pandemic, supply chains, critical technologies, climate change and infrastructure. Speaking ahead of the meeting, Australia's Foreign Minister Marise Payne said that Australia, India, Japan and the United States are partners committed to practical cooperation to support regional recovery.
The Quad partnership between Australia, India, Japan and the United States is committed to practical cooperation, including to support a regional recovery and to ensure all Indo-Pacific nations, large and small, are able to make their own strategic decisions free from coercion. It is about what 4 great democracies bring to support the region's priorities on COVID-19, vaccine access and other key challenges like maritime security, countering dangerous disinformation, humanitarian disaster relief and climate change.
Meanwhile, on Wednesday, Dr. S. Jaishankar met his Qatari counterpart Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani and exchanged views on global and regional developments, including Afghanistan. The 2 leaders also discussed political, economic, digital and security partnerships. Dr. Jaishankar tweeted that he held productive talks with Foreign Minister of Qatar. Appreciating the interest in expanding investment and trade, he said they discussed our broad-based political, economic, digital and security partnership and thanked Qatari authorities for the support extended to the Indian community. They also exchanged views on global and regional developments, including Afghanistan, added Dr. Jaishankar.
Nepal's ruling coalition voted against the Millennium Challenge Corporation or MCC deal on Thursday. According to reports, the Communist Party of Nepal Maoist Centre and the Unified Socialists did not support the ratification of the deal due to the upcoming local elections in the country. A report.
The MCC deal refers to the $500 million deal signed between the US government's Millennium Challenge Corporation and the Nepal government in September 2017. Created by the US Congress in January 2004, the Millennium Challenge Corporation, or MCC, is a system for channeling US foreign assistance. The MCC deal with Nepal is aimed at funding projects on road and other infrastructure to accelerate economic growth and reduce poverty. The deal also seeks to facilitate cross-border electricity trade between Nepal and India. One of the conditions of the MCC deal requires its ratification by the Nepalese parliament. However, the ruling coalition led by Prime Minister Deoba on Thursday declined to ratify it due to political differences. The United States had given Nepal a deadline of the 28th of February to ratify the deal. Meanwhile, last month, the Indian cabinet had approved an MOU with Nepal for the construction of a bridge over Mahakali River at Dharchula in India and Dharchula in Nepal. In a statement, the External Affairs Ministry said that the project will enhance cross-border connectivity between the Sudur Paschim province of Nepal and the Uttarakhand state of India across the Mahakali River, where close people-to-people links exist between communities on both sides of the border. Niharika Bhuvania for World News, All India Radio.
India's top medical education regulator, National Medical Commission, NMC, has advised the students to exercise due diligence in choosing the destination for their medical education. The word of caution by NMC comes especially in the context of medical education in China after India's External Affairs Ministry was alerted that some Chinese medical universities were inviting applications for admission to MBBS programs for the current and upcoming academic years, despite China continuing to ban the entry of foreign students in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. A report from our Beijing correspondent.
The NMC notice is an important reminder for thousands of Indian medical students studying in China who are stranded in India because of the travel restrictions imposed by China for the last 2 years, jeopardizing their careers. China has given no reason so far for the return of Indian students, even though it has promised to facilitate the return of students from certain countries, including Pakistan. Initially, China used to give COVID-19 as a region, but experts say now China has started dealing with this issue bilaterally, as evident in recent announcements made for Singapore, Mongolia, Pakistan, Indonesia, and Malaysia. It is also important to note that many students were forced to complete their medical degrees online, paying full fees, getting inferior quality of education, devoid of practical knowledge, which by law will not be valid in India. In such a situation, it is in the fitness of the things that NMC has made the students aware about the extant regulations before applying to Chinese or any foreign institutions. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has been saying for the last 1 year that it attaches great importance to the issue, and it was considering the return of thousands of international students stranded abroad to China in a coordinated manner, but again declined to elaborate when it was planning to do so. Anshuman Mishra for World News, All India Radio, Beijing.
Meanwhile, China has suspended Importu beef from Lithuania in a growing trade rift with the Baltic nation and its Western allies over Taiwan. According to media reports, the General Administration of Customs did not give a reason for the suspension, which took effect on Wednesday. The move comes after the UK on Monday announced it would join the United States and Australia in supporting a EU case against China at the World Trade Organization over Beijing's alleged trade sanctions against Lithuania.
In the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, UP, polling for the first phase of assembly elections was held on Thursday in 58 assembly constituencies spread over 11 districts. 60.17% voter turnout was registered in this phase. The state is witnessing 7 phased elections. The polling took place peacefully with no untoward incidents. Our correspondents report that polling parties have started reaching the collection centres. Meanwhile, campaigning has intensified for the other phases of elections in the state. India's Health Ministry has issued revised guidelines for international arrivals. The guidelines would come into effect from the 14th of this month. Besides uploading a negative RT-PCR report, an option to upload a certificate of completing the full primary vaccination schedule of COVID-19 vaccination has been provided to countries on a reciprocal basis. The guidelines state that 2% of the total passengers in the flight shall undergo random post-arrival testing at the airport. Such travellers in each flight shall be identified by the concerned airlines. They will submit the samples and shall be allowed to leave the airport. Highlighting the main features of the guidelines, Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia said that these guidelines mandate 14 days of self-monitoring post-arrival as against the 7-day home quarantine mandated earlier. He said that the demarcation of countries at risk and other countries has been removed.
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has said that vaccine inequity is the biggest moral failure of our times and people are paying the price. Mr. Guterres said that COVID-19 pandemic could be defeated this year only with vaccines, tests and treatments are made available to all the people. The UN chief was among world leaders calling for $23 billion to support the ACT accelerator, the collaboration that makes these goods accessible to everyone globally. Although more than 4.7 billion COVID-19 tests have been administered globally so far, WHO reports only around 22 million, a paltry of 0.4%, were administered in low-income countries. India has underlined the terrorist threats in its neighborhood in light of the situation in Afghanistan at the UN Security Council. Speaking at the UNSC meet on threats to international peace and security caused by the terrorist acts, India's permanent representative to the UN ambassador Tirumurthy also spoke about the terrorist links between the ISIL and the Haqqani network.
The report of the Taliban Sanctions Committee recognizes the continuation of the links between Taliban, especially through the Haqqani network, and Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups in our neighborhood. It is essential that we do not lose sight of the ease with which the proscribed Haqqani network, with support from their patron state, have worked along with prominent terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda, ISILK, etc. in South Asia. We have been reiterating the close links between proscribed terrorist entities under the 1267 sanctions regime, such as Lashkar-e-Taiba and other terrorist groups, including Jaish-e-Mohammed. However, in spite of repeatedly flagging these concerns, the Secretary General's report has failed to take notice of these linkages. We hope that in future iterations of such report, inputs from all member states would be treated on an equal footing and an evidence-based and credible yardstick be applied by its authors.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on the Quad and its strategic importance. In conversation are former diplomat Vishnu Prakash and Nilova Roy Chaudhary, a journalist.
Ambassador Vishnu Prakash joins us today to explain the significance of this grouping in today's global order. Good evening, Vishnu.
Good evening, Nilova. Nice to be on the program with you.
And you. Why is this meeting of Quad foreign ministers so important at this juncture?
Well, Quad itself is important, and it is important because 4 like-minded countries, 4 democracies, 4 countries which have a stake in peace, security, development, stability in the region and beyond have come together to promote a secure, a rule-based regional and global order. You mentioned freedom of navigation, free and open Indo-Pacific region, a liberal trading system, and to be a factor to promote stability, to ensure maritime security, and to respond to challenges that the region are facing, and going even beyond that, because here I'm referring to the vaccine diplomacy, the cooperation in cyber and critical technology, and so on and so forth.
So at this point, what is the primary agenda of this grouping? I mean, it isn't really a security alliance per se, but it is a grouping, as you rightly said, of like-minded democracies. So what kind of agenda can they set that would be very impactful?
Yeah, the Australian Foreign Minister has just outlined the agenda, and she has said that the grouping will discuss distribution of vaccine in the region. You would recall that it was agreed that 1 billion doses of vaccine would be made available by the Quad to the countries which do not have enough vaccine. And as of now, according to Minister Payne, 505 million doses of vaccine have already been delivered. and out of the pledge of more than 1.3 billion doses. So 2022 is the year when this pledge has to be fulfilled. So, the sourcing of vaccine, the possibility is that India will be the main supplier, but there are other suppliers too. And the distribution, which countries should get it, how should they get it, when should they get it. So these are important decisions. Then they will deliberate on cyber security, on critical technologies, on humanitarian and disaster responses, and significantly climate change, because this is again a challenge which is looking into the face of every country, and the future of the planet is at stake, future of humanity's well-being is at stake.
That being said, as we all know, China is the kind of elephant in the room, as it were, and has been very, very critical of this organization, saying that the only reason that they're really getting together is to check China's rise. To that, what would you say, and how is China kind of mistaken?
Well, first of all, if you don't mind, I am quite partial to elephants, so let us call that dragon in the room, if you don't mind. The fact is that rise of China is fine. Nobody grudges the rise of China. China used to say that it is good. There's a peaceful rise of China, but suddenly you see a China which has bared its fangs, revealed its claws, and is becoming a destabilizing force. They are expansionists, they are interventionists, and they want to create China-centric regional and world order, which is at variance with the rule structure that we know today, which is based on rule of law. They want to introduce a rule of power. So that is, and we have seen how they have been bullying their neighbors. They have border issues with practically all their neighbors. They are trying to convert South China Sea into a Chinese lake. They have staged a massive misadventure in eastern Ladakh, and so on and so forth. So certainly one of the aspects is to, though it is understated, is to join hands in pushing back China. Nobody wants to contain China, but at the same time, China cannot be a law unto itself. It has to be a member of the Committee of Nations. And today, frankly, Nilova, no single country, howsoever powerful, can draw red lines for China. It is only if the Committee of Nations come together. So it is not an aggression, but it is a defensive measure. Should there be a need, and there is a need, to stake out common positions, to tell China this far and no further. So that is also one of the objectives. But let us also, I would like here to mention that the security aspect of Quad, which was highlighted by the Trump administration, is being studiously being played down by the Biden administration. And it is the sense that one gets is that they are more inclined for information sharing, coordination of positions, joint exercises, etc., etc. But the security dimension is being played down consciously by the present administration in the US.
So what then is so special about the Quad? Why should, India, among others, take it seriously? And, what exactly does it mean for the region and the world?
These are the four countries which are large economies. At least three of them are large economies. They have the capabilities, both economic and defense. They have a certain vision. They have a commonality of interest. They have an experience in working together. And when there are too many countries involved, the focus gets diluted. Here, these four countries have not an identical but a similar vision on numerous things, and have the capability of delivering. As we saw, the beginning, so to say, was 2004 when tsunami happened, and the four countries, without any pre-coordination, work together. They are partners. They can conduct Malabar exercises together. They have good security cooperation. And so these are, and the location, the geography gives them a certain advantage. So these are the four countries which form the nucleus of a grouping, an informal grouping at the moment, which has the vision of furthering, promoting a rule-based regional and global order, and also to make positive contributions towards the betterment of the quality of life of the economies, of the technologies for like-minded developing countries. And similarly on climate change, India and US are two countries whose policies are going to impact the climate action. So, and Japan is quite committed to Japan. The archipelago is also directly affected by the climate change. So there is a commonality of interest, and there is that ability amongst these countries to translate thinking into action. But let us also not forget that Quad is a baby still. Effectively, it took shape in September 2019 when the foreign ministers met in New York. So we have to, it is an evolving grouping and it will take time, but the promise is considerable.
But do you believe that without a kind of a overt security aspect to it, I know that all the four countries do the Malabar exercises. I mean, Australia was brought in for the first time last year, but without an overt security element, that the group will not really be able to be as effective as it would otherwise be.
Well, there are two ways of looking at it. One is that when the first Quad meeting happened at an official level in 2007, neither the word Quad was used by India, nor was there any official statement. In fact, in initial years, countries were at pains to, while having the meetings, assure China that it had nothing to do, it was not aimed at China. Right. Now, it's a fact again that in a way, Quad coming of age, I'm saying that in a way, not coming of age, but Quad starting to take steps, even though they are baby steps forward, and concretize into a grouping. A lot is a reaction to Chinese belligerence. There is no doubt about it. So that said, a lot would depend on the Chinese behavior. If China continues its belligerence, if China is perceived as a threat to peace and stability, I mean, what stops these four countries to go further? A platform is there, and it is both active, proactive, and reactive. So the reactive aspect is there and would to a large extent depend on the security aspect. Dimension would depend on the Chinese behavior. But at the same time, there are other aspects too which we have enumerated, which are as important, because the Quad countries want to be seen as countries which are working together to support development in democratic countries and in developing countries. So there is a positive aspect also, not positive, but a developmental aspect also to Quad.
Right. Thank you so much, Vishnu.
Thank you.
This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the high-level segment of One Ocean Summit in February through a video message. The high-level segment of the summit will also be addressed by several heads of states and governments, including Germany, United Kingdom, South Korea, Japan, Canada, among others. One Ocean Summit is being organized by France from the 9th to the 11th of February in Brest, France, in cooperation with the United Nations and the World Bank. The objective of the summit is to mobilize the international community to take tangible action towards preserving and supporting healthy and sustainable ocean ecosystems.
The Mughal Gardens at Rashtrapati Bhavan will be open for the public from Saturday. The gardens will remain open till the 16th of March, and people can visit between 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. except on Mondays. President Ramnath Kovind on Thursday opened the annual Udyanotsav of Rashtrapati Bhavan. Visitors will be allowed to see the gardens only through advance online booking. The booking can be made on www.rashtrapatisachivalaya.gov.in. Each slot can accommodate a maximum of 100 persons. During the tour, visitors have to follow COVID protocols such as wearing masks and maintaining social distance.
Moving on to sports. In cricket, India will take on the West Indies in the third and the final ODI at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad on Friday. The match will begin at 1:30 p.m. local time. India beat West Indies by 44 runs in the second one-day international to take an unassailable 2-0 lead in the three-match series at the same venue Wednesday night. And now a report from the business world.
Sensex climbed by 460 points, 0.79% to trade at 59,926, while the Nifty surged by 142 points, 0.81% to 17,606. In global stock markets, Asian and European stocks in sync with overnight robust gains in the U.S. equity markets. However, Asian and European indices traded in a narrow range. Hong Kong's Hang Seng and Japan's Nikkei 225 both gained by 0.4%. China's Shanghai Composite Index and Singapore Straits Times Index both rose by 0.2%. Korea's Kospi added marginally by 0.1%. European share markets were up in intraday trade. Oil prices logged gains of more than 0.5%. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading around $92.10 per barrel. Arjun Chaudhary for World News All India Radio.
And now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Let's take a look at what made the headlines in Nepal. India Today reports that Nepal has said that the issue related to the reported Chinese encroachment of its territory in the western part of the country would be dealt with diplomatically. Republica writes that 6 South Asian nations, including India, are set to benefit from a new $21.5 million funding from the European Union, which will help to accelerate climate-smart and inclusive infrastructure investments in their regions. And now some news from Bangladesh. Former High Commissioner of Bangladesh in Malaysia, M. Khairuzaman, has been detained by the immigration police from Ampang town in Malaysia, reports Prothomalo. COVID claimed 41 deaths even while new cases declined to 7,264 on Thursday, reports Dhaka Tribune. Let's take a look at the press reports on China. Hindustan Times headline reads, Chinese potshots at Quad betrays Beijing's insecurity. The Guardian reported that China and South Korea have become embroiled in a cultural appropriation row after a woman appeared at the opening ceremony of the Beijing Winter Olympics wearing traditional Korean dress. And turning to Afghanistan now, ANI reports that the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, in Afghanistan has warned that 1 million Afghan children could die from severe acute malnutrition if urgent actions are not taken. BBC writes that a number of women who participated in protests demanding women's rights in Afghanistan are missing. According to The Guardian, the Pakistani-Afghan border running along Britain's colonial-era Durand Line is a center of the increasing tensions between Islamabad and the Taliban.
The 10th of February is the World Pulses Day. Pulses are important for their nutritional value, food security and environmental benefits such as nitrogen fixation and promoting biodiversity. In 2019, the General Assembly proclaimed 10th of February as the World Pulses Day to the efforts of Burkina Faso, who proposed the observance. The day seeks to promote awareness of the nutritional benefits and other value of pulses. The theme for this year is Pulses to Empower Youth in Achieving Sustainable Agri-Food Systems.
And now a quick look at the headlines once again. External Affairs Minister of India S. Jaishankar to meet foreign ministers of Quad at Melbourne on Friday. Nepal's ruling coalition votes against the $500 million Millennium Challenge Corporation deal. Over 60% voting recorded in the first phase of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. National Medical Commission cautions students over pursuing medical degrees from Chinese universities. India removes distinction between at-risk and other countries in revised guidelines for incoming international travelers. Vaccine inequity is the biggest moral failure of our times, says UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Mughal Gardens at Rashtrapati Bhavan to be open for the public from Saturday. And in cricket, the final ODI between India and West Indies to be played on Friday at Ahmedabad. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artistes from Nepal. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.